Today, I'm talking to you about words. You'll understand what I mean in a second, but I love words. When I'm reading in my Kindle, the dictionary feature is one of my favorite where you can tap the word and then read the definition. I still get a word of the day email into my inbox every morning because I just think words are so fun. My husband will joke and tell you that I make up words all the time. And that may or may not be true. It's totally true, by the way. I love words. Vocabulary, vocab lessons when I was a kid in school, that was one of my favorite classes. I just thought they were so fun. Today, what I'm talking about with words is the power of words on us. I have one phrase and I have one word that I want to talk to you in depth about today. And the reason why is this. You've heard me say before, 95% of what we think on a daily basis is in our subconscious, meaning we are not actively aware of 95% of our thoughts. And when we have these words as part of what's going on in our brain, we start believing them. We start identifying them. And we may not realize the impact that they're having on us. Case in point, the first word that I want to talk about today is the word should. I'm sure you've heard this before. Ladies, stop shoulding on yourself. Is it just me, or does that sound like somebody's telling you to stop shitting on yourself? Which is exactly what they're trying to say. That word alone conveys disappointment. When I say it or when I hear it, when I say it to myself, oh, I should go and do that, I immediately feel less than, and I feel like a failure. That word is inherently demotivating, meaning I don't want to do exactly what someone just told me I, in air quotes, should do. Immediately, no way. In theory, I might understand that, yes, it's in my best interest, or it's smart, or by someone else's standard, it's the best practice, but I'm not going to do it. And that's okay. Someone else's idea, someone else's prescription, someone else's advice that starts with, Stacey, you should, immediately I know I'm not going to do it because chances are they're probably not doing it. Here's the other thing about the word should. It creates this negative spiral because if you're saying it to yourself all of the time and you are creating that sense of disappointment and feeling less than, then you're not empowered. You're practically cutting yourself off at the knees and saying, yeah, no, everything that comes out of my mouth is I should be doing this, I should be doing this, I should be doing this, and I know that I'm not doing any of it. Oh my gosh, what a buzzkill. Here's the other part of the word should that I hadn't considered until just recently, and that's this. When we say people should be different or the situation should be different, we are dishonoring them. We're dishonoring ourselves also and the situation. We are not in the present moment. When we're saying this person should behave XYZ, just say you're at work and this person should have done more on this group project. Well, they didn't. And that's a judgment. And we're not taking people for who they are. We're not accepting the situation for as it is. And that creates dissatisfaction, right? If I'm constantly saying should, it's basically a signal that I'm unhappy, I'm disempowered, I'm not content. And that impacts me, it impacts my relationships, and it totally cheapens the experience, I guess, is the best way that I can say that. I'm shortchanging myself when I say should. So I will leave should where it is. I think you get the point. The other one I want to move on to is this phrase, some variation of, I'm a hot mess. I'm a loser. I'm never going to get it. I hear this from women a lot, and particularly the hot mess, because I think some people think it's cute or silly. But the bottom line is it's derogatory and it's not painting yourself in the best light. And also, it's not true. You are not a mess. When we say phrases like, I am a hot mess. I am a loser. I am never going to get it. We make that deeply personal and we begin to identify as a hot mess, as a loser, as someone who's never going to get it, versus saying, oh, wow, I made a mistake today. Or, ooh, gosh, I'm being forgetful today. Or, I made an oopsie today. Whatever it is, if you do nothing, start with the phrase, I am, and then see what comes on the other end of it, and then stop and change it. You can say, oh, wow, I'm having a bumpy day. Very different than saying, I'm a hot mess. Because then you start showing up and believing you're a hot mess. You're not a hot mess. Please stop right now. Those are berating words. They're belittling words. And I got to tell you, love, it doesn't work in the way that we think it works. It goes back to the shoulding before. We think that when we tell ourselves that, it's going to somehow motivate us or trick our brain, but it doesn't. It just makes us feel like poop, okay? If it worked, it would have worked by now. If telling yourself you're a hot mess or you're a loser or you're never going to get it was going to be effective, you would have done it. Whatever that it is, you would have done all of those things. So if 95% of what we're thinking is subconscious and we're not aware, how do you change these patterns? Well, it takes time, for sure. And it's not an overnight thing, but it can happen. And how do I know this? Because I don't should myself anymore. I used to say that all the time. And a couple of things that helped me kind of move through this is, and it's not to say that I don't ever say it again. I do, but I'm aware of it in a different way, and I often course correct. When I say the word should, my body immediately gets tight. Now, you know, I am super connected to my body, but your body doesn't lie to you. It will tell you. You will notice your shoulders might feel tight. My belly gets a little tight and like, ooh, just kind of icky. That's a tell. And it might not be immediate, but maybe you realize after the fact, or gosh, later in the day, wow, yeah, I realized my mood really started to plummet at that moment of the day. What was I thinking? What was going on? And you can kind of backtrack and work your way back to understand the story and the words that you're telling yourself. Something else that you can do is you can set the intention. You can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to work on cleaning up some of the dialogue that I have going on internally because I know it's not in my best interest. And just set the intention when you hear the word should to be more mindful. I'm going to be paying attention to this. You can ask the people in your life who you spend the most time with, or not spend the most time with, but whenever they hear you say that word, just, I don't know, raise a hand or say, yeah, you just said the word should, and you'll catch on very quickly. You tune in and you realize, oh, wow, yes, I am saying it very, very, very often. That's definitely one of the most effective ways to stop is by asking someone else to help you. You can pay attention to your words. And what do I mean by that? Do a brain dump. Try just sitting there for 5 minutes and free writing all the words, all the thoughts, all of the ideas, whatever is just coming to your head. And you'll see some of the words that you use regularly do pop up. It all starts with awareness. It starts with, oh, wow, I'm probably saying some of these words, or I wonder how many of these sentences or these phrases or how many times a day I say this word. And then kind of zooming out and just being curious with yourself, being compassionate. This is not an exercise where you're going to beat yourself up or ridicule yourself or say, see, you're never going to get it. Nope. Remember, we don't do that. We are learning. In the last episode, I talked about we are learning, we are human, we are growing our brains. And that's what this is too. Does it take time? Yes, but that's not a problem, because when you become aware, you will find very quickly that what you're saying to yourself matters. And if you want to have a moment where you're a little bit down on yourself, fine. Make sure what you're saying to yourself is what you would say to your best friend or your mother or your child, and not something that you're just going to lash out at with yourself. I love that phrase. If you wouldn't say it to somebody else, why are we saying it to ourselves? Yes, a million times yeses. Meeting ourselves with compassion, meeting ourselves with an understanding, and being gentle and kind with ourselves is what works. How do I know this? Because I spent years beating myself up, and I know you have too, and it doesn't work. Honestly, it just makes us feel like crap. And quite frankly, I don't have time for that anymore. And I know you don't either. Speaking of your best friend, if you enjoyed this podcast, it would help me out tremendously if you would screenshot this or just share it to her. You can do that directly from the app through text and just say, hey, I thought of you. I love doing this podcast, and I am new to the podcasting world and would super, super appreciate it if you could forward it along to just one friend today. It would really, really help me out. Thanks so much for listening. If this was helpful, text this episode to your friend, and reviews are always appreciated. I know you know that. You can find me on Instagram at Stacey Vulak, STACEYVULAKH, or email me directly. That's the best place to find me. hello@staceyv.com. Definitely grab the link for my weekly note in the show notes below. And remember, until next time, you're in charge. Where are you going next?